Trying to uncover the facts in this strange case of Steve Ditko, master of the comic arts, one other name occurs again and again. Stan Lee, or Stan the Man, is his credit on some of the most successful and influential comics in the history of the medium read. For many years, he was considered the sole creator of such fabulous and lucrative characters as the Hulk, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, and of course, the Amazing Spider-Man. Now, Stan himself did very little to clarify or correct that assumption, and it's only comparatively recently that his co-creators have got anything like the credit they so clearly deserve. To be fair, Stan's always been the showman, and he's even gone on record to jokingly remark that he'll happily take any credit that isn't nailed down. But I'm still intrigued to find out what he remembers about the early days, and whether or not he believes that Steve Ditko deserves to receive that credit as the co-creator of Spider-Man.
Steve had said, having an idea is nothing, because until it becomes a physical thing, it's just an idea. And he said it took him to draw the strip and to give it life, so to speak, or to make it actually something tangible. Otherwise, all I had was an idea. So I said to him, well, I think the person with the idea is the person who creates it. And he said, no, because I drew it. Anyway, Steve definitely felt that he was the co-creator of Spider-Man. And that was really, after he said it, and I saw it meant a lot to him, that was fine with me. So I said, fine, I'll tell everybody you're the co-creator. That didn't quite satisfy him, so I sent him a letter. I put it in writing. To whom it may concern, this is to state that I consider Steve Ditko to be the co-creator of Spider-Man along with me, something like that. And I sent it to him and I said, you can show this to anybody you want to. And I found out that Steve still objected to that because he felt I used the word consider. I consider Steve to be the co-creator. Apparently, he felt that wasn't definite enough. So at that point, I gave up. I mean, we just, I haven't spoken to him or heard from him since, I don't think.
But do you yourself believe that he co-created it?
I'm willing to say so.
That's not what I'm asking you, Stan.
No, and that's the best answer I can give you.
So it's a no then, really?
Pardon me?
Somebody got in touch with me from a radio show and said, look, I hope I haven't put my foot in it, but I was doing an interview with Stan Lee and he said the person he'd most like to talk to is you, so I've given him your contact details. And I really don't have a great deal of respect for Stan Lee. I had huge respect for him when I was a kid. I thought that he was possibly the best writer in the English language that had ever been. But as I said earlier, when you start in the industry, you find out that Jack wasn't jolly, and you find out why. And you find out that Steve wasn't sturdy, and you find out why. And you find out why Stan was smiling. You know, I don't think of him as a particularly gifted writer. I'm not trying to slag somebody who's an old man, but and it is a big but, you know, but I met Jack Kirby, you know. Jack Kirby created those characters. I'm inclined to think that he created almost all of them by himself. One of the things that makes me think that is Stan Lee. It's in one of those Origins of Marvel Comics books where he reminisces about how him and Jolly Jack created Captain America. You know, what a great time that was when me and Jolly Jack created Captain America. Stan Lee was about 12 when Jack Kirby and Joe Simon created Captain America. Now, that might be a slip of the memory, but no, I mean, I don't ever, I mean, my memory, as you saw earlier, where I had to ask somebody to pick up the thread, it's quite bad. Sometimes. But I've never sort of said, oh yeah, well I remember when me and Dave Cockrum created the X-Men. And having seen Jack Kirby's pencils, you know, you've got the whole thing broken down. And Jack Kirby would have done all that. And then you've got Jack Kirby's dialogue suggestions for every panel penciled in the margins. And you start to realise that what Stanley has done is taken, Jack Kirby's dialogue, some of it was a bit clunky. What Stanley had largely done was to fancy up Jack Kirby's dialogue, put in a few these and thous and forsooth, true believer, you know. But essentially it was Jack Kirby who wrote and drew those comics. Essentially it was him who created all of those characters. And that is wrong. And I remember when I did that Steve Ditko program with Jonathan Ross, where Stan Lee will not say, yes, Steve Ditko created Spider-Man. He will say, in my opinion, Steve Ditko created Spider-Man. But he won't say, yeah, actually, Steve Ditko did create Spider-Man. He won't say that, probably on advice from lawyers. And Jonathan Ross had got him over to come over to do the recording, and Stanley was going to be bringing his lawyer with him. But his lawyer got stuck in traffic. And Jonathan Ross said, oh, we're in a bit of a hurry. Or perhaps he said hurry, I don't know. But, so eventually Stanley said, oh well, we can do the interview. I trust you. And yeah, so Jonathan Ross got him, it was like the Jeremy Paxman moment when he was interviewing Michael Howard on Newsnight. He was saying, so, Stan Lee, is Steve Ditko the creator of Spider-Man? And Stan Lee was squirming and saying, well, in my opinion, Steve Ditko was the creator of Spider-Man. He said, yeah, that's not what I asked. Your opinion doesn't actually matter for anything. It's not official, is it? Was Steve Ditko the creator of Spider-Man? And about 3 times. He said, well, in my opinion, Steve Ditko is the creator of Spider-Man. You know, Steve Ditko was, during Spider-Man's, I think, 30th anniversary year, Steve Ditko was living in reduced circumstances. All these people, they had their work stolen from them. I don't want to end this on a particularly bitter note, but sort of, you did ask, so no, not a huge fan of Stan Lee, huge fan of a lot of the people that he worked with. So that kind of precludes any feelings of fondness for Stan Lee. I suppose we ought to end there. Has anyone got a little short, happy question?
So it's a no then?
No, I really think the guy who dreams the thing up created it. You dream it up and then you give it to anybody to draw it. I mean...
But if it had been drawn differently, it might not have been successful or a hit, I suppose.
Yeah, but then I would have had created something that didn't succeed.